So what's up, guys? It is a whole new day. In fact, it's the next day over, and I'm getting ready to record the next video for you guys. Something that I wanted to touch up on and add more emphasis on, and I'll put some pictures here over the screen. Every day when you log on to the charts, the only thing you're doing is you're just trying to find the overall narrative, and then you are zooming in to the body of that overall narrative, and you are seeing if the person in that narrative who is supposed to be winning is winning. That is all it is you're doing. And until you get an anomaly inside of that narrative, whether it's the heroes or the villains, you continue to, you want to continue to trade with the narrative, right? You probably heard the saying before that the trend is your friend. That's essentially what that means. Don't overcomplicate it. Find the narrative, zoom into the narrative of the body, zoom into the body of the narrative, read what is going on, and then from there, that's when you would do a couple other things and then look to take your position. But we're going to get into that in the next video. I just wanted to add that. So essentially what we have gone over in trading terms is I have taught you how to identify a trend, and I have taught you how to read market structure. That is what that means. Identifying the trend is finding the overall movement in one direction or the other, and reading market structure is within that trend, are we trending? And are there any anomalies within that trend that might tell us that that trend might be switching at a period in time? Hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully I've got it to click in your dome. All right, I know there's probably a pebble up there. I have a pebble up in my head. You know what I mean? So if it doesn't make sense for you, comment down below what it is exactly you're confused about, so then I can make a video on what it is that you're confused about. Or if it floats your boat, like I've been saying this whole time, underneath this video in the description, there is a Discord link for you to join a community that I'm trying to build where people help each other, or you can schedule a one-on-one with me somewhere down in the description. You'll see the link. I'll make sure that you see it, okay? That is all you're trying to do every single day. Don't overcomplicate it. Find the overall narrative, read the overall narrative, and from there, that's when you make a decision. It does not have to be complicated, and you need to stop overthinking. What's poppin'? Brand new chart just hopped on. That was corny. All right, look, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. If you've decided to keep learning, congratulations to you. You actually care about something. Today we're gonna continue in Act 3. Don't ask me why I'm wearing glasses in the house. So I have a big window right here, and the sun is just like hitting me in my face, and I can't record because the camera, whatever. It doesn't matter. But anyways, today we're going to continue with Act 3, game rules and hard truths. Keep in mind the context behind this is we've already set the game up and we've already loaded off of the title screen, and now we are physically on the game. But before we start playing, we have to learn the game rules. The game rules, like what is the game? What are the hard truths of the game, right? Can't play the game if you don't understand what it is. So we are currently in the tutorial of the video game. We've already gone over how to read the campaign of the story before we start playing. The next thing we are going to talk about is XP. Just like in a video game, in order to advance in anything, in order to advance to the next level, you have to get XP. And just like in a video game, if you lose XP, you go down in levels, correct? It is the same thing, and we are going to apply it to the charts. So today, once again, we are going to be discussing liquidity. It is the XP that causes the charts to move in the first, okay? And I just want to say before we get started, make sure that you thank God today that you are up and breathing, because wherever you're at in life, it could be 10 times worse. In fact, there's somebody else in life right now that would trade you positions for their position, okay? So as we go through all this, I want you to keep that in your mind, is that you can learn anything and you can do anything, no matter where you're at in life, no matter what you're going through. You need to understand that it could be way worse, all right? So thank God today that you're breathing. I just want to say that. All right. So like I said, today we're going to be discussing liquidity. Let's write down what liquidity is. Oh my God, I might be dyslexic. Liquidity is what causes the market to move. Okay, that is what liquidity is. In video game terms, in video game terms, it is how we advance in the game to the next level, or if we lose XP, it is how we decrease in level. Okay, that is what liquidity is. That is what XP is. Now, we're not going to spend too much time on this topic because it's relatively easy to understand and we don't need to overcomplicate it at all. We're just going to jump directly onto a market. We're just going to jump directly onto a chart, and I'm going to show you how to spot it and the context behind it and what is happening. Okay, so in this example, we have our chart pulled up from the last video, and we're just going to use the same exact chart. So if you want to open up your charts on another device or on another screen and just follow along with me so you can get the context down so that you can do this on your own, go ahead and do that now. All right, the place where you're going to want to put your mouse and start at is Monday, the 2nd of February 2026 at 1:30 a.m. I believe that is, or just 1:30, whatever. So to begin, we have to understand something. We've already gone over the context of villains and heroes fighting and what they're doing. Everyone is seeking the same thing. Everybody in this game is seeking XP. The boss fights that we talked about earlier, how the boss fights let everybody come into the room before they use a finisher move and wipe everybody out, and then all those players drop their XP, right? Even the boss fights in this video game are seeking out XP. Everybody is seeking XP. That is all the game of trading is. And what is XP? Okay? XP in this game is simply you and me. XP is simply, put in simple terms, it is where the villains are setting up their spawn points at and where the heroes are setting up their spawn points at. Okay? Don't overcomplicate it. Let's look at an example real quick. So in this example from yesterday, we have this understanding here, since this is a higher low, right? We know this is a higher low because it went down, so it's a low, but it is higher than the previous low because this went down, right? And we can visually see that this is higher, correct? So we understand that this is a higher low. And who sits at higher lows in a narrative going to the upside? Heroes, aka in trading terms, buyers, right? So since we know there is a group of heroes here, this essentially is their spawn point. They have spawned in here at this moment in time. This is where they have spawned in at, okay? So if we take a speech bubble real quick, this is the hero spawn point. In other words, if we're speaking in XP terms in a video game, this is hero XP, okay? And now let's do it for the villains, right? Since this is an overall move down, right? And the last thing that got created was this low. We know it was a lower low because it moved lower than all the other lows, right? The next thing that comes after a lower low, is a lower high, right? So this would be a lower high. Why is it a lower high? Well, because it still went up, so it still went high, but it is lower than the previous lower high, right? So from where this fell from, it is lower than the previous lower highs. Now, there is all of these lower highs in here, but we're not looking at those, okay? We are just looking at the overall movement before it pivoted. Now, one more time, okay? We are just looking at the overall move up or down. So in this example, we're looking at the overall move down before it pivoted and went the other direction. Okay, so we're not worried about all this other stuff. So if we look at this, the overall move, this overall went down before it pivoted and went the other direction, right? So since this is a move down, this is a lower low, okay? And since this moved up, it moved high, but it is a villainous narrative. This is a lower high. Does that make sense? Because that used to confuse me a lot when I first started out. Okay? So you're just looking at the overall movement right now. You're not looking at all this other little stuff in between. So who sits at lower highs in a villainous movement down, in a villainous narrative? Well, we know that villains, oh God, hopefully I'm not spelling this wrong again today. I'm actually making myself look dumb in front of all you. Since we know that villains sit at lower highs in a narrative going down, right? So villains are dragging the price down. It is safe to say that this is a villain spawn point, okay? In other words, this is where villain XP exists. Now, why is this villain XP? Well, remember, we have to think in video game terms, okay? Since this group of heroes that spawned in here are looking to regain control of the narrative, right? In order for them to get to the next level, think video game, okay? Think video game. Stay with me, stay with me. So the narrative here is that it is an overall villain narrative down, okay? The villains should be maintaining control of this narrative. However, a group of heroes have spawned in at a spawn camp. They've inserted XP. They have spawned in a spawn camp. And they are looking to fight this group of villains, all right? In order for them to advance to the next level in the video game, they need to take out this group of villains. So one more time for my people in the back. A group of heroes have spawned in here looking to change the narrative, and they are looking to fight this group of villains, right? Because this is the current group of villains that are pushing these heroes down. Okay? So in order for them to advance past to the next level to fight the next group of villains, right? They need to first take out this group of villains and take their XP. It is as simple as that. Okay, we're going to go over more examples. That is how the chart is moving. So when you come in to the chart for the day, so say this is what you were looking at for the day, right? And you've done your narrative reading. You need to understand that if you're looking at a higher low, it doesn't matter what you're looking at. So in this example, I'm looking at a higher low. If you're looking at a higher low, you need to understand the context behind that is that this is a hero spawn point, okay? So at this spawn point, hero XP exists, okay? And above that, there is a villainous group pushing these heroes down. It is the whole reason why they decided to spawn in the first place. Okay? Where's the group of villains pushing these guys down? They are here. Right? They're also here, but for simplicity, let's just tell you, they are here. This is where those villains are pushing these heroes down. So, we know that a villain spawn point exists here, which means that there is villain XP here at this high. If you decide to join the hero team, do you want to seek hero XP or villain XP? You're a good guy, right? You don't want to take out other good guys. So what you want to do is you want to seek out the villains and destroy them for their XP in the video game. Vice versa if you are on the villains team. So if you are on the team of villains, you want to be seeking out where the heroes have stored their XP. Okay? It is as simple as that. Decide whose team you're on, and whoever's team you're on, you're just trying to find where the XP is for the other team. Okay? It is as simple as that. Don't overcomplicate it. Now that you know that, understand that all of the movement on this chart you're looking at, that is all it is doing. No matter what the narrative is, if it's going up or if it's going down. Understand that this overall movement itself was just trying to find a certain amount of XP ultimately before the narrative was hijacked and taken over by the other team, and now it is doing the same thing. It is moving, in this example, it is moving, it was hijacked from the heroes and taken over by the villains, and now it is looking to move lower to find hero XP, right? And we know heroes sit on the ground. So they are looking to move from the sky to the ground. The villains have taken over the narrative in this example. It's as simple as that, guys. So, right? And in this overall move up, when we zoom into the actual narrative itself and we're looking at what is going on, we're breaking down the market structure, okay, in trading terms. When we zoom into the overall narrative itself and we're reading it, it is the same thing. So let's read this narrative here. So the overall narrative here is that the heroes are controlling the narrative. We see that because it is going up, right? But when we zoom in, let's read what is actually going on. Let's start from here. This is a hero spawn point. We know that because it has moved down, making it a low, first of all, but it is higher than this previous low here, okay? So we know that this is a higher low. Who sits below lows? Heroes sit below lows, right? Why do heroes sit below lows? Because they look to start from the ground and reach for the skies. They look to start from the ground and reach for the skies and get to heaven, right? They want to bring society up. They don't want to bring society down. So this is a hero, this is a hero spawn point, aka they have inserted hero XP into the game. Anytime a spawn point exists, you must understand that in order for that spawn point to even, in order for a hero or a villain to even set up that spawn point in the first place, they had to first insert their XP, okay? In other words, when they set up that spawn point, what I want you to picture in your head is picture a bunch of little, picture a campsite. I want you to picture a campsite of a bunch of heroes setting up base there. And since they set up base there, you have to understand that they've stored all their weapons there. They've stored everything that matters to them there at that spawn point, okay? It is the whole reason that they set the spawn point up in the first place. So if the villains were able to somehow come past that spawn point where they set all of their stuff up at, you have to understand that the villains have taken all of the stuff from the heroes. They've taken all of their XP, they've taken all of their weapons, they've taken all of their gear that they've invested into that certain point in time. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's keep reading the narrative. So, we understand that a group of heroes have set up here. The heroes then continued to move all the way up without even giving a chance for the villains to take control until we get to this point here. How do we know that? Because once we got to this point here, we then pivoted the other way. We can visually see that we turned the other way, right? We then pivoted the other way and then came back up. So let's read what happened. So the heroes set up their spawn point here. They then continued to maintain control of the narrative. We see that, right? Because overall, when we zoom out, overall, this is going up. So now we have zoomed in. They have maintained control of the narrative effortlessly, right? It's not even a contest. We can see multiple screenshots. Remember what the candles are? They're just screenshots of how a battle went between villains and heroes. We see multiple screenshots of the heroes winning back to back to back. These little ones of the villains winning, they don't even matter. You can see that they were completely overwhelmed. They weren't able to pivot us the other way when they spawned in there. So they don't even matter. The villains weren't able to pivot until they got to here. So who exists above highs? The villains, right? The villains exist above highs. So we understand that this is a villain. The villains have set up spawn here. This is a villain. Oh my God. This is a villain spawn point In other words, this is where their XP exists at, okay? So if I'm zoomed out here and I see that the overall narrative is in favor of the heroes, right? And then I zoom in to read the story and see what's going on. And at this moment in time, this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that the heroes set up a camp down here and they effortlessly have maintained that narrative that I was seeing when I zoomed out, right? And now what I'm seeing is the villains were able to pivot price. They were able to make a pivot in the story here and try to regain control. You have to understand something, is that the overall narrative, when we zoom out, is in favor, right? Because it's overall going up. It is in favor of the heroes. And until the villains prove that they deserve to take control of the narrative, you should be on the heroes team, okay? So the villains spawned in here. We then see them move down, follow my mouse. We then see them move down, right? Where they then get to a point where they are stopped and the story starts going the other way. So since we moved down, we moved low. Who exists at lows? Who exists at lows? Heroes exist at lows. They stop the villains from continuing down. In other words, a hero spawn point was set up here. AKA, this is where hero XP now exists. So if I'm looking to join a team of heroes, so say this is the current moment in time, I just opened my chart for today, and this is what I'm seeing. If I'm looking to join the overall narrative and I'm favoring the heroes, wouldn't you say that this is most likely like a good place to set up camp? I mean, the heroes have already proven to you that they're maintaining control of the overall narrative, right? So if you're looking to join the hero team, they've already proven you that they can stop the villains, right? Villains spawned in here. They were then looking to gain control of the narrative, but then this group of heroes who set up camp here stopped them from doing that and caused them to go the other way. So if this is the camp of heroes that exist right here, what I want to see is the villains try to come back into that area. I want to see the villains try to come back into that area, and I want to see them get smacked in the face and told no once again, right? The first time they got told no is when they tried to drag it down from their spawn point, and then suddenly they got turned back around. What I want to wait for and see is for them to try to come back down a second time, right? And then I want to see them get told no again. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. That is all you're doing. You're finding the overall narrative. You're then zooming into the body of the overall narrative. And then you are reading the story through the highs and lows, right? In order to read the story, you must first understand who sits at highs. It is villains. Why do villains sit at highs? Because they look to bring the world down with them, right? They want to start in the sky and bring society down. And you must first understand who sits at lows. Heroes sit at lows. Buyers sit at lows, right? Heroes sit at lows because they want to bring society up, okay? In order to read the narrative, in order to zoom in and read the narrative, you must first understand that concept. Then what you must understand is that when those heroes and villains spawn in, they're just looking to get from point A to point B. In this example, a group of heroes have spawned in here at this low. We know it's a low because it moved down, right? And it is higher than the previous low, right? So this is a higher low. When these group of heroes spawn in, all they're looking to do when they spawn in is move. They're just looking to advance upwards in the game. That is all they're doing. They're just looking to advance the game in a positive direction. They're just, the heroes, when they spawn in, they're just looking to advance the game in a positive direction. So if I'm looking to advance the game in a positive direction, I need to first chase XP, right? I need to get XP to level up to advance. If I'm a hero, I want to fight villains. So I must understand where the villains keep their XP. Where do the villains keep their XP? They keep their XP where villains set up camp, right? So if we go backwards in this example, who sits above highs? Villains sit above highs, right? So this is a high. How do we know this is a high? Because this moved upwards, right? So it moved higher. It moved higher before coming down. So this is a XP for villains. So if I am a hero, I want to fight villains. Where is the most recent group of villains Because if you can find where the most recent group of villains is, you know where their XP is. You know how you can advance in the game. It is as simple as that. Vice versa, if you're on the team of villains. So the last example we just did was if you're on the team of heroes. If you're on the team of heroes, you want to be looking to chase villain XP. You want to be looking for the most recent spawn point of villains, and you want to be targeting them if you are on the heroes team, right? If I'm on the villains team, right? So this moved up before it moved down, which means that this is a villain spawn point, okay? This is a villain spawn point. Other words, there is XP here for villains. If I'm on the villains team, who is it that I want to be going after if I'm on the team of villains? I want to be going after the heroes, correct? Where do heroes, let's go back. I know you already see it, but let's go back so this makes more sense. If I'm on the team of villains, where is it that heroes keep their XP? Well, where is it that heroes spawn in at? They spawn in below lows, right? So if we mark this up, we can see this is a high, this is a low, this is a high, this is a low, this is a high, right? So now that we have this marked up, and one more time for my people who are still struggling with this, you know it is a high because it moved up. If it moves up, it is moving higher, okay? Once it pivots the other way, it is officially a higher high or a lower high. It is that simple. In this example, we moved up, right? So we went higher and then we pivoted the other way. This is a higher high because it is higher than all of the other previous highs before it. Don't overcomplicate it. So when we're drawing this up, we just want to draw high, low. They moved up, they moved down, they moved up until we get to the most recent group of whoever's controlling price. And then we want to mark up the spawn points. Where are the heroes' spawn points? Well, heroes sit below lows, right? There is a spawn point here, and there is a spawn point here, and there are a couple more spawn points back here, but we're only going to focus on these two for now. There are two hero spawn points here. Here's a hero spawn point, aka XP. And here is another hero spawn point, aka XP. If for whatever reason I'm looking to join the group of villains when I log on today, I want to try to target the most recent group of hero spawn points. That is all you're doing. You are choosing your team, and then you are looking to advance to the most recent group of your opponent. That is all trading. That is all trading is, okay? That is all trading is. That is it. So now if we look at this, we can see that when these villains spawned in here, right? Because this moved up and then pivoted the other way. When these villains spawned in here above this higher high, they were then able to regain control. This is a narrative in favor of the heroes. So actually this is a possible trend switch, right? But anyways, let's focus on what we were focusing on. So in this example, these villains were able to spawn in, and they were able to effortlessly chase these hero spawn points and absorb their XP. So now that these villains have absorbed this hero XP, right? They now have power in their back pocket. So the next time that they set up a camp, are they going to be stronger or are they going to be weaker? So one more time. So since the villains have now been able to get to these hero spawn points and take all their stuff, take all their gear, take all their experience points, when the next group of villains spawn in, are they going to be weaker or should they be stronger? Should they be weaker or stronger? What do you think? They should be stronger, right? Because they have more weapons now. They have more intel. They have more experience in taking out groups of heroes. Okay? Does that make sense? That's all it is. So this group of villains were able to take out this group of heroes, right? They're gone now, which means that the next time a group of villains spawn in, they should be stronger. So we can see a group of heroes spawned in right here, right? Because heroes spawn below lows. We know this is a low because it moved down and then turned the other way. This is a lower low, right? Because it moved lower than the previous, it moved lower than the previous lows, right? But anyways, we know a group of heroes spawned in here because this is a low and heroes sit below lows. Price then starts going the other way. Who sits above highs? Who sits above highs? Villains, right? Villains sit above highs. So a group of villains then spawn in here. So these are the heroes, and these are the new group of villains. Okay? So since this new group of villains have spawned in, should they be weaker or should they be stronger? They should be stronger. So theoretically, given the context, right? What is the context? The context is that this was an overall move going up, but somehow when this group of villains spawned in, they were able to get to these heroes' camps and take all their shit. So the context is that this is a potential switch in narrative. It's not confirmed yet, but we are just reading the context. So theoretically, since the villains were able to take all of this gear and all of these experience points from these groups of previous heroes, when they spawn in again to take on another group of heroes, should they be weaker or stronger? They should be stronger. And they should have no problem taking out that group of heroes that just spawned in, right? Now, say that this happened. These group of villains took out these group of heroes and took all their XP, right? And then a new group of villains spawn in, and they're continuing to advance down now and take out another group of heroes, but then suddenly they're turned around, and instead it starts going back up. All that means is despite all their efforts, and it was a good effort in this example, all that means is despite all their efforts, the heroes are too strong. They are too strong. That is all that means, okay? Don't overcomplicate it. The heroes are just too strong. So in this example, if the villains proceed to start moving the narrative down now instead of up, but then suddenly instead of continuing down and taking out another group of heroes, instead they start going the other way, all that proves is that the heroes have just shown you that they are just too strong despite the villain's best efforts. So this is truly a overall move in favor of the heroes is all that means. And once again, hopefully you're still sticking with me. Once again, now if this villain group spawns in and instead they move down and take out another group of heroes without any effort, it's no problem for them. What that means, given the context, what that means is that this is a true switch in narrative. The villains are truly showing you why they are evil. They are truly showing you that they are looking to stump on every hero who wanted to lift society up. That is all that means, okay? So find the context. So one more time, let's summarize. So what is XP? What is XP? Can anybody answer? If you can't answer and if you don't get this right, go back, rewind the video, and take notes and write down what XP is and where to find the XP. Because if you can find where the XP is and you can read the context of the story, you can choose whose team you want to be on and target the other XP on the other side. So I'll ask again, what is XP? If you said that XP is just spawn points where heroes and villains spawn in at, you would be correct, okay? Who spawns in above highs? So when we move up, who's spawning in? Villains, right? When we move down, who is spawning in? Heroes. When we move down, we want heroes to spawn in and take it the other way, right? So villains sit above highs and heroes sit below lows. You have to understand that context. The most important, you have to understand that, because if you can find, first of all, where the XP is for both teams, and then you can read the context being who has control of the overall narrative, and is that person who has control of the overall narrative winning or losing, then you can choose a team And then you can look to target the most recent spawn point of your opponent, because that is where they keep their XP. That is where they have set up base. And none of this moves, just like in a video game, none of this advances up or down without collecting XP. In this example, we cannot advance up unless we continue to collect the XP of villains. This whole move up couldn't have happened unless these heroes kept destroying these villains in battle, right? This overall move down couldn't have happened unless the villains kept destroying the heroes in battle. In other words, the villains were chasing after and destroying the heroes' spawn points every time they spawned in. Every time a group of heroes spawned in below a low, a group of villains above a high overwhelmed them and took all their stuff down at the lows. And since we have taken all of their stuff, it only made us stronger. It only made the villains stronger because they have taken all of the hero stuff despite their best efforts. And it is the same context if you are looking at it from a narrative going up. The heroes are chasing after the villains, and every time a group of villains spawn in, the heroes are taking all of their stuff. They're taking all of the villains' XP. And since the heroes are taking all of the villains' XP, they should have no problem taking out the next group of villains who have spawned in, right? They should have no problem moving past them. And we want to keep seeing that happen. And until a group of villains spawn in that are so overwhelming to the heroes, until a group of villains spawn in that are so overwhelming, and they prove, given their best efforts, and they prove that they are truly looking to gain control from the heroes, you stick to one side of the narrative until that narrative switches, and it proves to you that it has switched. And we have already gone over how a narrative switches, okay? Does that make sense? Does everybody understand that? So the movement in this video game, the movement on this screen that you're seeing, the movement in this video game cannot happen without what first? XP. The movement in this video game cannot happen without XP. We need XP from both sides of heroes and villains to move up or to move down. If we don't have XP from either side being taken by either opposing force, we don't move up or we don't move down. If villains aren't taking hero XP, we overall aren't going down. If heroes aren't taking villain XP, then we aren't going up. Well, what happens when either side isn't taking, what happens when the heroes aren't taking the villains' spawn points? And what happens when the villains aren't taking the hero spawn points? In trading, that's something called consolidation, and we'll go into that. I'll either do it in this video and I'll edit it together, or we'll go into that in the next video. But for right now, I need you to understand that, okay? We have gone over what XP is. So what you should write down in your notes is exactly what you see on the screen here, okay? Liquidity equals XP. XP, what is it? It is what causes the market to move. It is what causes the game to move in the first place. In other words, it is how we advance to the next level in the video game. Whether you're on the villains team looking to advance, or you're on the heroes team looking to advance. XP is how we advance in the game to the next level. Okay? That is all it is. You can write down what I wrote here, or if you truly don't want to be confused, rewind the video and just write down what I just said. That is all you need to do, okay? So we have gone over what XP is in the video game and how to find it and why it is that we're moving up in the first place and why it is that we're moving down in the first place. And we have gone over that given context because none of that matters. It doesn't matter if you're able to find XP and where it's at on the game map if you don't even know the context on whose team to get behind in the first place, right? So good enough for you. We have gone over both. And that is all there is to it. Don't overcomplicate it. Now, if you're still confused, I have left a link down below this video to join a Discord where I'm looking to build a community of people who want to help each other. If you join the Discord and come and at me in the Discord or at some community members and ask for some help, we are more than willing to help, me, myself included. Or if you really need the hand-holding and you really need the extra time, I've left a link down in the description to book a one-on-one call with me via Zoom so that I can personally hold your hand and walk you through this. I will have you share your screen and we will continue to hit this and go over it until you understand this and have the concepts down in your head. Because it is extremely important that you understand context and narrative in the game of trading. Otherwise, you cannot play the video game. If you understand context and narrative, then you can find where the XP is for whatever side you're on, whether you're on the heroes or the villain side. You can find where the XP is at, and then you can look to chase and advance to wherever that XP is. Okay? That is all there is to it. So that's all there is to it, and that is all there is to it, guys. That's going to be it for this segment of the video. I don't know if I'm going to merge this together with the next part or if I'm just going to make it a separate video, but either way, I want you guys to understand this, that this doesn't need to be difficult. And if you need some extra hand holding, please join the Discord. If you don't want to book a one-on-one, that's fine. But just join the Discord. We're still going to help. Join the Discord, okay? With that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. I'm going to record that immediately after this, and we're just going to jump right into it. I'm going to go take a quick break real quick because I have to go to the bathroom and I am starving. All right, peace out, guys.